All right, it is time to update our Dynasty Superflex rookie mock draft, and this one's going to be interesting. We've got some landing spots here, and this is going to be, I can tell you right now, a very hotly contested video based on what's going to happen right here. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. We were trying to get to 2K before draft day, and, well, you guys got us to 2K well before draft day, so we really appreciate all that. But make sure you subscribe if you haven't. It's we're trying to put out Dynasty content every single week leading up to the draft, around the draft, and after the draft. So make sure you subscribe and make sure you like the video. It is free, it's easy, and it just bloop, and then it helps us out like a ton. It's crazy. YouTube is a nutty thing, but it helps us out a ton. So we really appreciate that. All right, I'm gonna go off the rails here a little bit.
Okay, cool.
I think this is more than warranted, but in this mock draft, and for the record, this is a mock draft done by NFL.com. So we did not do this mock draft ourselves. We did not pick the landing spot or the draft capital. However, keep in mind as we're doing this mock draft, got it, for a Superflex league, that we are doing it based on the assumption that this is where they got their draft capital and this is where they went. So landing spot and draft capital have been decided. We have it in front of us, and then we're going to make decisions based on that. So when you say, oh, how can you take this guy above this guy? Well, in this simulation, he got way better draft capital. So we're going to go based like this is real life, and we're going to do the crazy thing here. You already know. That's hilarious. At the 101 in Dynasty Superflex Leagues, I'm going to take Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson off the board, 104 to the Colts. So he gets top 5 draft capital. He goes to an offensive system where you've got Shane Steichen, you've got Jonathan Taylor, you've got Michael Pittman. So he's got some weapons that are at least decent to start, and Jonathan Taylor's case, elite, but he's with a quarterback or coach, that you saw develop a great quarterback in Jalen Hurts, somebody who we personally thought was not going to do anything past a certain point in the NFL, and then ended up completely proving us wrong.
Yeah.
We know Anthony Richardson is raw. We know he's not good at quarterbacking / passing the ball. Understand. However, again, you watch Anthony Richardson's film and you look at what he can do athletically and how much of a unicorn he is in that aspect of things. And you have to think that if a team is going to take him top 5 in the NFL draft, if he's going to get this draft capital, 2 things have to be true. Number one, an NFL team believes that they can develop him into something that is elite or into something that is an elite starting quarterback. And so that has to be true if they're taking him here. But number 2, it means that if they believe in Anthony Richardson's skill set as a whole, we should too. We should too. I mean, the draft capital is going to be king. If Anthony Richardson is going to go to this landing spot, and with that coach at that draft pick, I'm going to take Anthony Richardson over Bijon Robinson all day. You can trash me in the comments for it. You can trash us. Again, this is a super flex league, so we have 2 quarterbacks. You've seen, look, if we're going for league-winning upside, guys, Anthony Richardson is going to offer more league-winning upside than Bijon Robinson, especially if he gets this security in his draft capital. Okay, yeah. So I think you can debate this, obviously, but in this scenario, since he's getting this was actually the 103. So if
I was going to say they traded up to the Cards.
So if he does get this draft capital, I don't really think you can argue with this. I can see why somebody would take Bijon over Anthony Richardson. However, Anthony Richardson, with his athleticism, I think he offers more league-winning upside than Bijon Robinson will as a quarterback in a Superflex league. So, all right, number 2.
So that pick, obviously, without question, leaves Bijon Robinson at the 102. In this mock draft, he's going in the NFL draft at the 112 to Houston. And I personally think this is just hilarious because of all the Dameon Pierce truthers out there.
Yeah, this would be so funny. And it's going to happen. It'll happen.
It'll happen. It will. I hope the Eagles get him just for the sake of, I think that would be really fun to watch that offense with Bijon. But if he goes to Houston, he'll have all the opportunity there. They'll be building around Bryce Young, who, according to this mock draft, went to Houston as well. So
and Quentin Johnson.
This a lot. Yeah.
So they got a haul in this draft.
It's like a New York Jets caliber draft.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. The 103, I'm going to go ahead and take CJ Stroud. So CJ Stroud in this mock draft went the 101 to the Panthers. I think that he will go 101 in the NFL draft. I've seen a report. I don't know if you've seen this. I have seen a report every single day this week with a different person that the Panthers are sold on. Like, Sleeper sent me an alert that Bryce Young was their guy.
Yeah.
And I've also heard that Anthony Richardson is their guy, and that's who Frank Reich wants. And then I've also heard that, like, CJ Stroud is their guy, and that's who Frank Reich. Like, they're just, I think they're throwing a bunch of smoke screens out, and then they're trying to get somebody to trade up, knowing that they can probably get whoever they want in the second or third pick. In reality, I think they are going to take C.J. Stroud. I think they stay put. And C.J. Stroud is obviously somebody I've been very high on. I love everything about him as a quarterback. I don't think there's a ton of glaring questions with C.J. Stroud, so it makes him a fairly safe pick. Going to play in Carolina with Frank Reich is a better landing spot than Bryce Young going to Houston to play there. I like Frank Reich as a coach for quarterbacks. I think you saw what he was able to do with Andrew Luck, and obviously, with Carson Wentz early in his career, which if you can make Carson Wentz look good, you can probably make anybody look good. So, I think I think C.J. Stroud fits the type of quarterback that Frank Reich likes and likes to coach. I think you saw the reactions, when he was throwing at the combine. They were pretty impressed by him, and he had a great combine. But, regardless of what everybody says and what tweets you're seeing about who's going to go number one overall, I think C.J. Stroud is their guy. I think he's going to end up going to the Panthers, and I think it's a decent landing spot for him. So, all right, you've got the 104.
All right, at the 104, I'm going to... Man, this is tough for me, but I think with the draft capital, him going second overall in the NFL draft to a team that is just loaded with draft picks over the next couple seasons, I'm going to go with Bryce Young. Going to Houston, he's obviously debatably going 101 as well. It pretty much is being said just as much as Stroud is being said 101. And with him, I think D'Amico Ryan's there, obviously a defensive-minded guy, but he's no dummy. He will surround Bryce Young with the tools and the coaching staff that he needs to develop if he goes there. And getting those receivers in the later rounds, and obviously the guys they already have there, Bijon Robinson, there's not going to be much pressure year one on Bryce Young, and I think that's really going to help him develop as an NFL quarterback long term. And that would really just devastate me as a Colts fan, seeing that in the AFC South and him not being on my team. So
I'll feel bad for you when that happens because we're not moving up. So listen, I know this is boring. If you are in a 1 QB league, just take all these QBs and remove them, and that's our 1 QB rookie mock draft.
Yeah.
So at the 105, I've got to take Will Levis. Will Levis gets top 10 draft capital here. He goes to the Minnesota Vikings, and there are a couple guys
traded up.
There are a couple guys I really like here in this first round range. A couple receivers, a couple tight ends, things like that. But even another quarterback. But really, with Will Levis, if somebody's trading up to get him, and as a team like the Vikings with weapons like Justin Jefferson, and he's getting that top 10 draft capital in a Superflex league, I just cannot take a wide receiver or running back over Will Levis. It's just, if you're getting that draft capital, it means you're going to get numerous chances. They're probably going to develop him behind Kirk Cousins for a year. I'll take my shot on the long-term investment of Will Levis, that his value will go way, way up once he becomes the starter. And I'll also take my shot on his upside, that he might become a serviceable NFL starter and might be a good fantasy asset as well, where he offers at least some rushing upside. So I'll take Will Levis there at the 105. All right, you got the 106.
Okay, so at the 106, I'm easily taking JSN. I debated even taking him there at the 104 earlier. A landing spot to the Packers is actually something that I've really begun to grow on. I think that would be very, very telling of what type of receiver Christian Watson will be in his career, and that is a field stretcher. That's a very, a very good receiver that is not an alpha receiver. And with Jackson Smith and Jigba, if you're bringing him into the slot, being that easier target for Jordan Love, who's going to take, we would assume, probably a season to develop. I know you're a little bit more concerned about him in terms of what he can support at the wide receiver position.
I think he'll take a season to get them Caleb Williams, but
wow. Okay. We really have no idea what Jordan Love is going to be. What we do know is that he's going to need a lot of help around him, and Jackson Smith and Jigba will easily support that. He will easily be that alpha option in that offense, and I think that's perfect. I think it's a great landing spot.
I have to agree with you there. All right, at the 107, I am going to take Jordan Addison here. Jordan Addison off the board at the 21st pick overall to the Chargers. The Chargers are in desperate need of weapons. Obviously, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen both getting a little bit older and struggling to stay healthy, honestly, at times. And you saw this last year. They struggled to stay on the field for some of the season. So they're really in need of a tight end, but I also think they are in the market for a receiver. And if they take a guy like Jordan Addison, who has the profile to be a very, very good receiver in the NFL, and he gets this draft capital and he gets tied to a quarterback in Justin Herbert, who personally I think is maybe the best quarterback of all time. Not really, I'm just kidding. But, I think you've got to take Jordan Addison there. He's a receiver. Again, rookie wide receivers here, you're probably going to see with our draft strategy, they are the safest pick outside of quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are going to maintain their value most of the time. Wide receivers, rookies are going to always maintain their value. So if you're picking here in rookie draft, you know that if you're investing in a JSN, if you're investing in an Addison or a QJ or a Zay Flowers, you know that year over year they're going to maintain their value because people give rookie wide receivers or second-year wide receivers a long time to develop, and therefore they maintain their value very well. The 108 is all yours, buddy.
This one's tough for me. This could really go either way. I'm going to go with the wide receiver. I'm going to take QJ at the 202.
What?
And I mean, the very beginning of the second round to a team that really has no proven dominant wide receiver there, and Quentin Johnson is going there being passed to by Bryce Young. Like, John Mechie, we have no idea what he is. Yes, he has second round draft capital, but he's also has, I mean, we really haven't heard much from him at all. Nico Collins, I'm not sold on at all. I think he's overrated. Quentin Johnson has amazing physical traits, and he can be that alpha target for Bryce Young. I don't think that's not really a question for me if he goes there. So I'm taking him easily. All the other receivers that are going late first round, none of those guys are the number one receiver on their own team. And they're getting probably just as much, if not less, target share than QJ would in Houston with Bryce Young.
All right. I'll push back a little bit on that.
You're welcome to push back, yeah.
Because I think if Jalen Hyatt goes 125 to the Chiefs,
he's a sell.
I think he would be too, but I would take him here, number one, for market value. But number two, I think there's a legitimate shot he could be. I mean, outside of Travis Kelce, the wide receiver one on his team, the actual wide receiver one, like not the wide receiver / tight end one. Because I mean, you saw it with the Chiefs wide receivers, and they're gonna every week they're gonna have somebody different that balls out. But if he goes to the Chiefs, his value in Dynasty is going to skyrocket. Everybody's gonna freak out. He's immediately tied to the best quarterback. He actually may be the best quarterback of all time, not the greatest, but the best quarterback of all time. And you know, a team that really needs some weapons in the wide receiver game. Obviously, you saw Juju Smith-Schuster, and he did okay last year. And you saw guys like Mecole Hardman. They did all right. But, I mean, they could really benefit from a receiver that is of this caliber, that can stretch the field. And I think Hyatt is that. I think if there's anybody that can get Jalen Hyatt the ball, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes. And obviously, we don't necessarily super love everything about Jalen Hyatt, but he got the draft capital, and he gets the landing spot here.
So are you taking a 109? After I take QJ?
Why else would I be talking about him?
Okay, cool. I thought you were still pushing back on my...
No. Yeah, I'm taking one.
Okay, all right, cool.
And it's close. I think you'll see as you see the draft capital and landing spots here, there's a couple guys. There are easily 3 or 4 guys I would have taken there. Like, I don't know who to take, so I'm just spitballing. So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to take Jamir Gibbs at the 207 to the Eagles. Again, I would have my own questions, obviously, with the type of offense that they run. That could that change a little bit? Maybe with Steichen leaving, but with Gibbs, we expect him to produce at an elite level in terms of his receiving skill set. And if Jalen Hurts obviously dumps the ball off to him a significant amount of times in the game, that's great. I just wonder how much that will be, because they do like to actually scheme like power run plays for their running backs, and Miles Sanders did a really good job at that. And then they would, punch in Boston Scott at the goal line. But with Jamir Gibbs, he's obviously not going to be that guy that they're really going to punch in anywhere on short yardage attempts. But again, if they kind of shake some things up and they end up, passing the ball to the running backs a little bit more and getting a little, saucy with that, I think that could be really fun to see in that offense. So
I'm kind of regretting not taking him over Hyatt. It's so tough. I mean, if Hyatt is obviously somebody we're not super high on, but if he gets that draft capital, like I feel like I have to. Yeah. I know he's going to maintain his value, so I guess that's a conservative pick.
Yeah, I have my own questions about Gibbs to the Eagles because I just like Bijon there a lot more. I think that fits more with what they want to do, but again,
I don't care that if you are an
Gibbs.
Eagles fan, I know they're not going to draft a running back. Okay, just save it. At the 111, I'm going to take Hendon Hooker, who went at the end of the first round here. He went at the 130, I think, to the Raiders. And so with Hendon Hooker getting late first round draft capital, I mean, you've seen over the last couple of years quarterbacks get late first, early second round draft capital and then end up being the starter in relatively short order. And in a lot of cases here, you've actually seen them be fairly successful. I mean, an example of that is Jalen Hurts. And so with Hendon Hooker, if he does get this draft capital and he is going to the Raiders, I don't think that Jimmy Garoppolo is necessarily like the hardest obstacle to overcome to become the QB1 in Las Vegas. I think that's something that Hendon Hooker is capable of, and I think maybe that Hendon Hooker has slid down a little bit because of his injury, and because of that, I think maybe they're going to let Jimmy Garoppolo start a year and let Hendon Hooker develop behind him, and then when Hendon Hooker is really healthy the year after that, there will be more of a fierce competition in camp, and then I think Hendon Hooker could take that job within a year. So if he's getting this draft capital in Superflex League, I will happily take him right here. There's a lot of, there's some other guys I really like here, but Hendon Hooker seems like the obvious pick.
Very high floor QB that definitely would appear to fit McDaniel's system and what they like to do there. So I'm going to take Zay Flowers pretty easily at the 112 here. Obviously, going into his rookie season, he'd be, the third receiving threat there behind Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. That's obviously a concern in terms of immediate production, but I mean, if he shows any flashes whatsoever, and everyone knows that Tyler Lockett's aging and probably only has a year or two left of relevancy, they're going to get pretty high on him, and he's going to easily maintain his value. So I really like that landing spot there. Geno Smith has shown that he can support two borderline wide receiver ones, which I never thought I would ever say in my entire life. But here we are. Things change. Zay Flowers of the Seahawks. Love it a lot.
Yeah. Oh, this is hard.
This is really hard
because like we've preached to you, especially in even in Dynasty tight end premium leagues, which we only really play in tight end premium leagues, that you can't invest in these young tight ends like this. It's not a good investment because they're not really going to break out until they're 24, 25 years old anyway. So instead of investing in them now, invest in a receiver or invest in a quarterback and then go back and get them at the same price 2 years down the road before they break out. I'm going to have to live by that as I go here to the 201, and I'm going to take Josh Downs. Josh Downs in this mock draft goes in the late second to the Dallas Cowboys, and so landing spot-wise, he's obviously going to be behind CD Lamb, but outside of that, I think he'll outproduce Brandon Cooks, honestly, and I think he's a safe pick. I think he gets a little bit higher draft capital than this personally, but Josh Downs is somebody that I've been high on since last year. I've owned him in Devy leagues, and I really like him. I think that his skill set is going to translate very well to the NFL, and in fact, I think he'd complement CD Lamb very well on the Cowboys. So, again, there are a lot of I think we've got 5 tight ends drafted ahead of him, and I'm going to take the upside. I'm going to take the smart investment. I'm going to take Josh Downs here.
Okay, oh my gosh. At this point, I just have to draft the landing spot because the gap between the draft capital is getting really slim when it comes to the tight ends that are going up high and then the rest of the skill positions later. I'm going to go Dalton Kincaid at the 126 going to the Cowboys. We saw what Dalton Schultz did as a tight end for the last 2-3 seasons, what he's done with Dak Prescott. Obviously, Josh Downs going there makes it a little bit interesting in terms of target share. What are the tight ends going to do there? I would assume that Hendershot and what's the other guy there? Ferguson will probably get the majority of the snaps the first year, but Kincaid is legit. And honestly, he may be my favorite. He may be my favorite tight end in this class, even more than Michael Mayer. And I think that he fits that offense really, really well. I think that within a couple years, he could even be an early breakout in terms of tight ends and what they do generally. And he could be a mid tight end who ends up skyrocketing in value, and then you can move off of him in the future and get an elite tight end for him if he doesn't become an elite tight end anyways. So really like that landing spot there.
I think I would take this guy over Kincaid. I think I'm going to take Michael Mayer here to the Bengals. And the reason I am going to finally take a tight end here is because, number one, he got first-round draft capital. But number two, he's actually 3 reasons. Number two, he's probably the best prospect from a tight end perspective in the draft. And number three, he's going to be tied to Joe Burrow on a team that really needs a dominant tight end there. And look, you've seen it the last couple of years.
Look what Hayden Hurst did last
year. And even before that,
him.
Uzoma, right? Like, I mean,
yeah.
They, for the last 2 years, you've had mid tight ends come in there and produce at a high enough level to where they're startable in redraft leagues, let alone tied in premium leagues. So I think if Michael Mayer does go to the Bengals with him being tied to Joe Burrow and him getting that first-round draft capital, I think this is about where you'll see him go, but he might even slip up higher. Now, again, I've explained the reason that we're not taking him at the end of the first here is because he's probably not going to be a breakout candidate for 2 or 3 more years, and so I'm not going to invest a first-round rookie pick in Dynasty on a tight end. But now, and you look at it, I'm at the 203 right now. I'm comfortable taking Michael Mayer here. I think he is going to be a good NFL tight end, and with the landing spot and all things considered, I think I'll take him here at the 203 pretty comfortably.
Yeah, that's the end of the first rounds for the NFL picks.
Yeah.
So at the 204, I am really excited about this. I'm going to take Taija Spears at the 308 going to the New Orleans Saints.
That was my pick.
And I think... the early third round draft capital isn't ideal, but it's not like the end of the world. That I could easily see if Taija Spears really shows out, that's fine enough investment where they could commit to him long term and not replace him within the next couple of seasons. I think his skill set is great. I think Kamara is going to get that suspension this year and is going to be out for a significant amount of the season, and Taija Spears could easily fill those shoes right off the bat. Not saying he'll be Kamara level in his prime, but I mean, he'd have the opportunity to be that. And I think he showed what he could do in college coming off of that ACL tear. And he was very, very impressive. So he's shown that he can have some receiving upside as well, which makes me think that that's actually an attractive landing spot. And I could see the Saints actually doing that because there's no one else in that backfield. If Kamara is suspended at the beginning of the season, they have no one in that backfield. So they have to be drafting a running back, right?
Yeah, I've seen him mocked to the Saints in multiple places. I love it. I would, especially if he gets, this draft capital in the beginning of the third. I'd be all in on this too, especially at the 204. And so at the 205, I'm going to take Cedric Tillman. And then this mock draft, Cedric Tillman goes in the late second to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And with Cedric Tillman, we have been higher on him than most on this show. He's a big body receiver. Athletically, he tested out well at the combine. And then now you have him going to Jacksonville to be tied to Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, obviously a budding QB in his own right, and you see him starting to step into his own, be able to support high-level fantasy receivers. He did it last year with Christian Kirk, and a lot of people assume that he's going to do it this year with Calvin Ridley. I push back on that a little bit, and I would think within the next 2-3 years, if they're drafting Cedric Tillman here in the second round, Cedric Tillman does have the skill set to complement Christian Kirk fairly well. And so I would guess that Cedric Tillman's going to grow into that wide receiver 2 role. And I think Cedric Tillman does have the upside to be a wide receiver 1 on a team. On this team in particular, I think he would grow into a wide receiver 2 role. But when he's getting this late second round draft capital and he's going to a team that has Trevor Lawrence throwing him the ball, I'll take him as a safer investment here at the 205.
Yeah, at the 309, I'm still going to be a believer in Zach Charbonnet here, even though the landing spot at face value is kind of gross, him going to the Titans here.
Disgusting.
But, again, if you think back, if I'm not mistaken, Derrick Henry was not the running back 1 in his offense right off the bat, right? His rookie season. Was DeMarco Murray still there?
I think it was 2 seasons, wasn't it?
It may have been 2 seasons. It took him a while to come out of college, and then it took him a while to actually produce at an elite level there in that offense. But again, the Titans are an offense in the Vrabel offense that definitely likes to lean on the running game. So I think this draft with Zach Charbonnet here, I think that's really indicative of what they're going to do with Derrick Henry long term. I think they're going to let him go after this season, and they're going to move on. And that's a great situation for Charbs to really get implemented into that offense, not be the bell cow right off the bat, but can really grow as a talented running back prospect going into the NFL. So I think that definitely destroys any sort of value that Hassan Haskins would have. I think Charbs easily takes that number 1 spot long term. So
yeah, I like Zach Charbonnet. I hope he gets a little bit higher draft capital on a better landing spot, but I can't blame you for taking him, obviously. Oh man, this is tough.
There's so many disgusting landing spots in this range right
this
now.
Is really,
I have to start
gross.
looking down.
I'm going to take Sam LaPorta, actually. He goes here in the mid-late second, and he goes to the Dolphins. So a high-powered offense here, and it's the 207. So, look, I think he's going to be the tight end 1 right away. They obviously, Gesicki, where did Gesicki go?
New England.
Thank you.
That's a nice landing spot.
Gross.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Hunter Henry is so mid.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
he was producing it consistently as a tight end 1, which isn't saying much. But
I didn't know he was on a tight end 1.
No, he did. I remember he did in 2021. He was a tight end 1 in 2021.
I mean,
I'm pretty sure he was in 2022.
I don't like that at all. Anyways,
I like it.
LaPorta at the Dolphins again. This is probably the highest powered offense here. I think he could be the third weapon on that offense right away. And if you saw, I think his RAS was super high if I'm remembering correctly. So he's obviously coming out of tight end U as well. I have trust in him, but at this point it's coming down to draft capital and landing spot, and we're running out of guys in the second round.
Yeah, but with LaPorta, look what Gesicki did, who's basically a wide receiver. Look what he did in the offense with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. I think Sam LaPorta is better than Mike there was no room. Oh, well, yeah, but still, how much target share is he going to get there?
Realistically, you're looking at probably 2-3 years when he breaks out, and when I'm doing the math, that's exactly when Tyreek Hill is going to retire. So I think by the time Tyreek Hill walks away from the game, Sam LaPorta can probably...
Because Tyreek Hill, since he said it, is guaranteed to retire in 2025. I think it's hilarious. He's going to be a buy low very soon.
He already is a buy low, but he's going to retire. I don't think he's kidding.
I'm sure he's not kidding when he says it, but that is 3 years away. Anything could change.
But that's what I'm saying. I think it would take him 3 years to break out anyways. By the time that he breaks out, he could probably be the second weapon behind Jalen Waddle on that team.
But again, at the 207, why not take a running back or a receiver here that has a good landing spot?
Because the next running back has mid-third round draft capital.
Okay, but the receivers, there's Parker Washington and Kayshon Boutte that there's no receivers in those offenses where they go.
Yeah, they got late third round draft capital.
Right.
I'm talking about Sam LaPorta, who got second round draft capital.
Again, this is mid to late second, so it's not really that big of a deal. So I understand why you'd take LaPorta because
he got better draft capital than everybody else.
He got better draft capital, and
because he'll be in a situation in 3 years where he could actually be a viable
in 3 years. That's
Nathan,
kind of
when you're
point
drafting a tight end, you're not drafting them to produce right now.
Right, but I would say you could draft him for when people get high on him when he scores a touchdown one game. You can package them together and get an elite tight ends.
Either way,
really
it's the 207, so it's not. It's not really a questionable pick.
No, but I was just saying I would have probably rather taken a running back or a wide receiver, I guess.
I don't know how,
just because
talking about a whole round difference of draft.
I hate the landing spot. I just think the Dolphins is a terrible landing spot.
I just explained to you why it's not, though.
I know. I just explained to you why it was.
But I won. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was right, though.
We're going over time here. I'm going to rush through these last few.
Crap.
I'm going to take Parker Washington to the Ravens at the 323. There's no other receivers there. Rashad Bateman, sure. But, Parker Washington just has just as good opportunity there. So
I'm pretty happy to see Marvin Mims falling right here.
Yeah, he deserves to fall because of the landing spot, even though he has better draft capital than these other guys.
I'll take another tight end. I'll go Luke Musgrave. He went mid-second here. He's obviously with the Communists. However, you have to think that the Communists also have a good shot at getting Caleb Williams next year. So no telling what might happen with that organization, but I think they're going to get sold. So I think their fantasy players aren't necessarily just going to be dead assets anymore. And again, he's the highest remaining draft capital on this list by quite a bit, so I'll take him.
Yeah. If Rashee Rice is going second round to the Bears, I think he's not even going to make it to the 210, so I'll take him here for market value. Anyone who goes to the Bears is just going to skyrocket in value, and everyone and their mom is going to be obsessed with him. So I'll take him, and I'll ship him off for an overpay.
For market value's sake, I'll take Chase Brown here. Chase Brown went in the early third, mid-third to the Cardinals. I think if this happened, people would be selling the crap out of James Conner and then would be just completely sold on Chase Brown. I don't think Chase Brown is capable of that, so I'll take him here.
Yeah, Zach Evans to the Browns is not bad in the third round at the 311. That's higher than I'm kind of expecting at this point. But again, outside of Nick Chubb, who's kind of nearing the end of his deal, I think that's a fine landing spot. So I'll take Zach Evans there. Yeah.
All right, so that's 2 full rounds of Dynasty Superflex rookie mock draft. So make sure you let us know what you think in the comments about some of the discussions that we had and what you think about where these players ended up landing spot-wise, draft capital-wise, and how close you think that will be as well. Let us know everything in the comments. Make sure you drop your questions down there as well. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We've got content coming out every single week at this point leading up to the draft, and we've got a ton of content centered around the draft coming out, so make sure you subscribe and make sure you like the video. It's really easy. Just press that little button, and it helps us out so much, so we appreciate that from all you guys. And make sure you check out our locals. That is where all of our exclusive content is. We've got ADP there, exclusive mock draft, all of our rankings, and plus you get to get access to the DD community, which is pretty awesome as well. As always, we appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you later.